Hola, clase, ¿cómo estás? Como le dije en el último video, hoy vamos a estudiar los mandatos informales. On these commands, you'll notice that we only have one, we only have two. In the last ones, the formal commands, we had usted and ustedes. That's because we have a singular and a formal form for our formal commands. Informal, though, we just, when we're talking to one person, we use two. Of course, there are commands for the vosotros form, so the plural informal form, but that's only used in Spain, so we won't be learning that. But I've got some examples for you to show you on the next slide just how useful two commands are, because we do use them a lot. Like I told you, usted and ustedes are really important to know because those are the safe commands to use all the time. But two, we do get personal and talk to each other with two commands in certain ways and with certain expressions and phrases. And so they are really helpful as well. So like I said, informal commands using the to form, they're really useful. Here's just some examples. They're kind of fun. So no me digas, that's not necessarily saying don't tell me. You're not actually telling them that you don't want to tell them. You're more like saying, are you kidding me? So, you know, it's a slang that you would just use like with friends and things like that. Limpia tu cuarto. So this is commands. I always use the to form commands like as an example of commands that your parents would give you because they're older than you and they treat you in an informal way. Clean your room. That would be a type of command in the two, like a to form command that your parents would give you. Or haz tu tarea, do your homework. Déjame en paz. I heard that a lot in Honduras, especially with brothers and sisters. If somebody was bothering them, they'd, you know, say, leave me alone, like leave me in peace. Déjame en paz. Ponte las pilas. That was something we would say in school before exams. And it literally means like put your batteries to charge, charge your batteries. But in a academic setting, it's more like saying like recharge your batteries, get your act together, shape up, get ready for your exams. No te preocupes. So don't worry. That's something that you can say if somebody is saying, oh, I'm so sorry, you didn't turn in, somebody didn't show up when they were supposed to, and then the person's like, oh no, don't worry about it. So no te preocupes, don't worry about it. Vete de aquí. This would probably be, you would use this if you're mad at somebody, like get out of here, take yourself away from here is kind of what you're saying. But also like you could say it like, get out of here, like with a friend, vete de aquí, when you're like just, razzing each other. Dime, so tell me, dímelo, tell me it. See, I'm kind of going up now from the bottom. Síguenos en Facebook. So follow us on Facebook. You'll see a lot of times you'll use the to form in social media because, of course, these people, they're like your best friend, right? They want you to subscribe to them. And so they use the to form. Of course, I had to include this meme. I think I had this on your thing last year. Cuando tu mama tira la chancla. It's just funny. It's not using a command. But your parents give you commands a lot of times. And when you don't listen to them, at least in Latin American countries, you have to fear the chancla, which is the flip-flop, because they take the chancla off and they throw it at you. And if you aren't fast and you can't run away, then you will definitely get hit or whacked by it. So it's more just like an inside joke for any, Hispanic students that I might have. They'll get this joke. Dale like. So we say like us, like it. I don't know what we say actually, but dale like. So give it a like. Suscríbete. So subscribe to our channel. We'll see that all the time all over social media. A lot of times the videos that we watch that are in Spanish, they'll say that. Suscríbete. That's not sus, by the way. It's suscríbete. Mira vos. That one, that's exactly how I heard it too. Mira vos. And it's kind of like, how about that? Or would you look at that? And I guess it doesn't have to be said with an attitude, although that's how I've heard it said a lot of times. So lots of just real world type slang talk or whatever you want to call it that people will say using these formal commands. So now we'll look at how it's formed. Just real quick, especially for two commands, remember it's really important to know the difference between un mandato afirmativo when someone's telling you to do an action like corre, or un mandato negativo when someone's not telling you or telling you to not do something. So no corras. You'll notice that with two commands, corre and no corras, correr is conjugated differently for the two form. If it's an affirmative command, it gets conjugated one way. If it's a negative command, it gets conjugated a different way, which I don't like, but it's just how it is. So for mandatos afirmativos, if you're giving someone an affirmative command, then you're just going to do one step. To form the affirmative two commands, all you're going to do is use the el, ella, usted form of the verb in the present tense. So for hablar, that's habla. The el, ella, usted form of hablar in the present tense is habla. For comer, it's come. Escribir, escribe. Dormir, duerme. Now, don't forget, the person who you're talking to, the person who you're giving the command is like another person that you're saying you to. So like you talk, you eat, but you're using the he, she form of the verb in the present tense. So like you habla, you come, tú escribe, tú duerme. And remember that like dormir, I put that one there to show you that stem changers or any irregulars that happen in the present tense in the LA usted form, you've got to remember those. There's not as many. The yo form, there's lots of irregulars, but even in the LA usted form, one of the types of irregulars that you'll run into a lot are stem changers. So beware of those. And there are verbos irregulares para mandatos afirmativos, all right? So ser is se, ir is ve, hacer, haz, decir, di, poner, pon, salir, sal, tener, ten, and venir, ven. And again, it's really important that you go ahead and write these down, organize these, because you're going to see that for mandatos negativos, they have different irregular verbs, which means that some of these that you're looking at right now, they're irregular when you're giving an affirmative command. But if you give that exact same affirmative command, but you tell them not to do it, then sometimes it'll be regular, or vice versa. Sometimes then all of a sudden it'll be irregular. So it's important for you to just kind of start practicing these and organizing them. Aquí tenemos algunos ejemplos. So primero, blank los platos. So lavar los platos. You'll notice that all of these, they're being given to, like you. So I'm saying tú, but we don't ever write that. It's an implied you. And so, you would see like in English in grammar class where you have to do like the you in parentheses. That's what all of these are. Okay. So like on a quiz or a test, if I have to, I will put, the you in parentheses so that you know who we're talking about. So lavar los platos. This is an affirmative command. These are actually all on here are affirmative commands, since that's what I just showed you how to do. And so you take the verb lavar, you're going to put it in the el, ella, usted form, so it ends up being lava. Lava los platos, wash the plates. Blank la verdad. Decir is an irregular verb. If you consult your chart, it's di. Maybe you remember that. Some of these, if you use them enough, you just start to remember them. Di la verdad. Tell the truth. That's a good command. You, tell the truth. Número tres, dormir ahora. So sleep now. That would be duerme, right? Because it's an O-T-U-E stem changer in the present tense, and it's in the L-A usted form, so we just add the regular E that we would. Jack, barrer el piso. You can put a person's name in there if you want. If you're giving a command to a certain person that you treat informally, you can say their name, comma, and then the verb. So Jack barre el piso. Notice that comma is extremely important because if you were just writing a sentence and you said Jack barre el piso, you had a period and you didn't have that comma after Jack, it would look like you're saying Jack sweeps the floor. It would look like you're using barrer in the present tense in the LAO form. So then it's not a command, it's a statement, right? So be careful with that comma. Número 5, blank la ropa sucia en la lavadora. So you put the dirty clothes in the washing machine. And poner is an irregular, so we just put pon here, because if you look back at your list, that's what it would be. Número 6, ir a la iglesia. So go to church. And this one's an irregular as well. It's ve. So ve a la iglesia. Go to church. You go to church. So now we're going to look at mandatos negativos, so negative commands. You form negative commands differently than you do affirmative commands. So there's tres pasos. These are the same as usted and ustedes, so that's kind of nice. Number 1, put the verb in the yo form of the present tense. Number 2, remove the o from the ending. And then number 3, add the opposite ending. So if it's an AR verb, you add an ES. If it's an ER or an IR verb, you add an AS. So you've got hablar. In the yo form, it's hablo. You take the O off, and then you add the opposite ending. So you end up with no hables. Comer, yo form is como. You take the O off, and then you have no comas because you add the opposite ending. Same with escribir. Escribo, you take the O off. You add the opposite ending, so the AS ending, no escribas. Dormir, just an example of a stem changer. So you go to the yo form, duermo. You take the O off, and then you add the opposite ending, no duermas. There's only 5 irregular verbs for the negative commands. So dar is one, dar no des, estar no estés, ir no vayas, saber no sepas, and ser no seas. I'll show you really quick why these are irregular. So if you try to follow the 3 steps and you take dar to the yo form of the present tense, you get doy, estar is estoy, ir is voy, saber is sé, and ser is soy. And remember that our first step is go to the yo form of the present tense. The second step is take the O off the end. Do any of these have an O on the end? They don't. So they're rule breakers. They're kind of lost. They're orphans, whatever you want to call them. And so because of that, then, we have to come up with a different way to make them work as commands. So that's why they are irregular. So really go ahead and just treat all verbs like they're regular verbs with mandatos negativos. And whenever you come to a goofy one like this that you are like, what in the world am I going to do with this? Then you'll remember, oh, this is an irregular one. Also, remember that cargars are verbs. They apply to 2 commands, just like they did for usted and ustedes. So for verbs that end in car, the C changes to a QU, no pesques. Pagar, the G changes to a GU, no pagues. Empezar, the Z changes to a C, no empieces. Notice that it's empezar is still a stem changer, so the E changes to an IE, and you also change the Z to a C. And remember that you have to add opposite endings. So since all of these verbs ended in AR, you're adding ES to the end. Okay, so lots of things to remember. Y tenemos algunos ejemplos. So primero, Alexi, no escribir en mis libros. So escribir, we take it to the yo form. Escribo, we drop the O. Since it was ending in an I, we need to add an A onto the end. So no escribas en mis libros. Número 2, no correr en la casa. So correr, we get rid of the ER and add an AS. It doesn't do anything funky in the yo form. It's just corro. So we take off the O, we add an AS. So no corras en la casa. Número 3, no ser malo. No ser malo. Don't be bad. I heard this a lot from one specific brother and sister in Honduras. Now, remember that ser is irregular. So it's seas. No seas malo, Linko, is what one of the friends of mine in Honduras used to always say to her brother. Don't be bad. Like, don't be bad with me, is actually what she'd say in English too. Número 4, no mirar la tele todo el día. So don't watch TV all day. Mirar in the yo form is miro. We take off the O, add the opposite ending, so an es ending. No mires la tele todo el día. Javier, no estar triste. So Javier, don't be sad. And this is an irregular one. Really, it's only irregular because of the accent mark. Otherwise, well, it's also irregular because if we go to the yo form, we get estoy, and we can't really take the O off because there's a Y on the end. So most of our irregular verbs, they have a reason why they're irregular. Just like ser, if we go to the yo form, it's soy, kind of weird because we can't take off the Y. So it doesn't follow those three rules, and that's why it's irregular. The last one, no poner los platos en la lavadora. And so we can go to the yo form of poner, which is pongo. We take off the O and we add the opposite ending, which is an AS. So no pongas los platos en la lavadora. So don't put the plates in the dishwasher. The last thing here before we go is just a quick reminder, just like with usted and ustedes commands, so the formal commands, with informal commands, it's important to know where to put your pronombres, your pronouns. So if the command is affirmative, the pronoun is attached to the end of the verb. Same rule as before. So lávalo, wash it. If the command is negative, the pronoun comes before the verb. And remember, these aren't choices, okay? So whenever the command is negative, the pronoun has to come before the verb. No lo laves, don't wash it, okay? And this is just these two sentences here are a great example to remind you that even the verb is conjugated differently. So even though I'm talking to the same person, that implied to in both cases. If I'm telling you to do something, so I'll put a check mark here. If I'm telling you to wash it, then I have to conjugate it as lava, and then I attach the pronoun to the end, so lavalo. If I'm telling you not to do it, so put an X here, then I have to use laves. So I can't say lava, I have to say laves, and then the pronoun has to come before the verb. So no lo laves, all right? And so I know these are tricky. We're going to try to just do as many different examples using these in real life and saying these expressions that it just helps get them more ingrained into your head. That way we can focus less on the grammar and more on just the real world usage of these.